about comics. Let's talk about comics. Let's talk about comics. Let's talk about comics. Around the YouTube, it is Charles, and today's comic book review is going to be slightly different because I'm going to use one comic to just give my thoughts on why this particular comic writer is currently my favorite. And that comic book is Daredevil 21 Legacy 683. And the author is Saladin Ahmed. One thing that's important to me in storytelling, be it comic book, novels, television show, are stakes. And when I say stakes, I don't mean actual cow meat. Despite being fat, I love steaks, but in comic books, I'm talking about risk. I'm talking about consequences. And in this world, especially of Marvel Comics, we know that death isn't necessarily death. We know that banishment isn't necessarily banishment. That a person can experience or even do horrible things, but when you get to the next book, it's shaken off and they're on to the next thing. This run of Daredevil right here, from the first book to this book, everything matters. Every action that Matt Murdock takes since being resurrected has consequences that are and that are being felt in number 21 from things that he decided to do in book 1. It tackles how these things affect the people around him. How him coming back as a priest affected his relationship with Elektra. How his decision to first not tell his friend Foggy that he was back from the dead, but not just that, when he decided to let Daredevil die to save his friend Foggy. How that not only affects Matt's conscience, but Foggy's as well. And everything that happens, he was working in an orphanage as a priest, and when one of the kids went missing, he found out that the kid ran off because he found out that Matt Murdock had decided to take back up the mantle of Daredevil. And then we find out later that Daredevil had a hand, at least as far as the kid knew, had a part in his father's death. And so his dealings with the henchman, who knows in what issue, had effects that affected him, that affected not only his life, but the life of a random orphan who happened to be in his charge later. This has been astounding stuff, and we start with more of those stakes. Once we get past the preamble here, we see that he's having a nightmare where he describes himself as being an 11-year-old child, and he's wearing Bullseye's costume, and he's being thrown off the roof by a devil. And it really has him questioning what he did. I mean, this is a very clever way of showing that maybe Matt, in deciding to save his friend over Bullseye and choosing to let him die, he feels like he became a devil, and that Bullseye's death was the death of his innocence. And we even seen a couple of issues back how Foggy is still dealing with the issues of that, and who knows how long that's gonna be going on. But the thing that I love about Saladin Ahmad's writing is that attention doesn't go unrewarded. He doesn't just put plot points and things in here to get you to the next panel. He's placing things in each book to get you through the next 6, 7, 8, 9, 20 books. And I've heard people, I saw a review today that said his style was boring. But if you go back through my catalogs, I've reviewed most issues of this book because the way I choose reviews is not what I think is going to get me the most views. It's what I personally enjoy and what I personally want to get into your guys' hands to watch this channel, because I think you might enjoy it as well. But while other people have described his style of writing as boring, I have said in almost every review it's a masterclass in slow burn storytelling. I think that in today's society, and don't get me wrong, I love social media. I love the minute clips that make me laugh of a dog doing something silly. But I also want to sit down to a book and experience that and disappear into that world. I want to sit down and watch wrestling and suspend my disbelief for 2 hours. I want to sit down and watch a feature length show or movie. That's kind of like social media to me is like a snack. It's like M&Ms. They're fun, but they're not going to add any sustainable nutrition. You can't live off them. But to me, the real meat and potatoes of media is slow burn storytelling, making everything have stakes. And he is really doing that with this book. I will give you a basic rundown of what happens here, but I don't want to give you a beat by beat because I want you to experience this book for yourself. But basically, where we are right now is Matt is still reeling from the death of Bullseye, and he is into a new relationship with Nyla, who was kind of a rebound in a way, not from that relationship with Electra, but from everything that he had been going through with his crisis of faith and that big 19-book arc. And so it's kind of a safe place for him. And while he was staying in her new fancy apartment building, he stumbled upon a scheme of where young people are being kidnapped. And so he hops into Daredevil mode to figure out what happens. And after doing some investigation, he returns to Nyla's apartment and ends up getting poisoned with some kind of fungal infection. Um, very, very great art there, very visceral, very um, gruesome in the best ways. When I look at the art, even this cover, it puts a little pit in my stomach. Um, and so we, go from that dream sequence to him waking up and finding out that he's actually in the basement of this building with Nyla and the young lady that had previously gone missing. And so he, is able to fend off the toxins somewhat, enough to save Nyla and the young lady. He's still infected, but his years of fighting off infections and his enhanced capabilities, his training as an assassin has prepared him to fight off these things. And so, again, relying on his history to sensibly make sense of things, but there are still stakes because he is still infected. And this infection is very much a ticking bomb. Uh, he's, so he's trying to find out and get to the bottom of it. And one thing that I thought was very clever is that he uses all of his senses to track whatever is behind this nefarious kidnapping and drugging. And I say whatever, it could say whomever. But then again, I'm on the verge of giving away a little bit away. But he ends up tracking the source to the Upper East Side of New York. And one thing that I think is very clever that he says is that there are corners of New York where cops are afraid to go. And a lot of people assume that that's Hell's Kitchen, but no, it's neighborhoods like these. And so it also speaks to the power dynamic and, the fear of and the real danger of the oligarch class as opposed to the perceived threat of the poor. And so we have a little social commentary mixed in there, but that's been consistent throughout Saladin's writing of this run. And the action is still there. We have this great action scene of him breaking into our house in this classic Daredevil style. We got the new suit going on. And that's all I'm going to give you from this issue because, like I said, my goal is never to spoil a story for you or tell you that story. I want to lay out a template and let you know something you want to invest your time in. But I really suggest getting into this. You can get the earlier volumes in trade paperback and, Saladin Ahmed, if you like stakes in storytelling, if you like slow burn storytelling, if you like stories that pay off, get into this Daredevil run. You will not be disappointed. And the great thing about this writing style as well is that it doesn't matter really what book you get into. We have the preamble, of course, that first off gives you a history of the character. It lets you know where we are right now. That's all on page one. And so you can pick up any book and feel like you know what's going on. You're not going to be lost if you haven't read the previous books. But I suggest you read the previous books because they're so damn good. Anyway, that's my thoughts. It's been a longer video, but I wanted to show my appreciation for Saladin Ahmed and all of the great authors that, provide this niche bit of entertainment. This tactile entertainment that it's important to me because we spend so much of our lives. I'm talking into a tablet right now, but to get a paper book in your hand and to turn them pages and to see the creativity in front of you, somebody else, and to connect that way is a special thing. And that's what makes comic books, especially physically collecting comic books, important to me. So I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching. You can get your copies. If you're in Wyoming, check out my friends at Spellbound Apothecary and Entertainment in the Eastridge Mall, in between Target and Best Buy. They ship for free in state if you order over $35 worth of books. So if you're in Wyoming, check them out. And if you're not in Wyoming, I always suggest my friend Jeff at coffeeandacomic.com. They ship nationwide, have great prices, great service, and everything comes bagged, boarded, and secure. So I'll see you next time. Until then, keep reading them books. I will. I'm out.